Hello, Charlie TCG here. Welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyse the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how will it impact Taiwan. Today, I'm discussing my favourite topic on this channel. Is creativity being rewarded in the Prismatic Evolutions format? We're breaking out some of the winning lists from the City League this week. We're going to see what some of the creative players may have chosen and how it really got rewarded. And is it something we could incorporate as we've just entered the Prismatic Evolution format ourselves? But as we've just entered this one, Japan is just about to enter a brand new format as well, post-rotation. So we're going to break down the remaining cards that got revealed for their Battle Together set, which is going to be released on Friday, along with post-rotation, which we'll of course talk about next week. Just want to say thank you so much for supporting the channel the past few weeks. It's been absolutely incredible. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed my casting style video for the tabletop video, and hopefully we'll get a few more of those out in just a few weeks' time. So without further ado, let's break down the remaining of the new cards. So we did got our last EX got revealed, which was Salamence EX, and honestly, this is a little bit of a letdown. I could definitely see this be some play in like Reid Drago, and of course, Reid Drago rotates when this set is out, so it would be in more of a expanded style deck, 200 damage, and you discard 2 energies from its Pokemon. I do believe this could be the replacement for likes of Mega Rayquaza over there, which does exactly the same amount of damage, but I believe it does require 1 more energy to discard, so this could see some energy play that away, and you can easily get rid of likes of a Double Dragon. Now, we did see some new N sort of cards got revealed, and definitely I've been a little bit let down by N, but they could see some synergy. N's Clank is definitely not as powerful as we once thought it would be. For 2 metal and a colorless energy, it does 120 damage, and you get to flip 3 coins and 120 damage for each head you get. Definitely quite a good maximum damage, doing 360 damage, but of course that's only if you hit 3 heads, which obviously is a very low likelihood. And Joltik, however, I really like. For 2 colorless energy, it does 30 damage, and before doing any damage, you get to discard all tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. If you discard any tool cards this way, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Any sort of these paralyzing effect definitely is something to always keep on your radar, as paralyzed is one of the best special conditions, making sure the opponent can't retreat or sort of attack their active Pokemon for that one turn. Generally, it could see some play. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Bravery Charm and Sparkling Crystal seen a ton of success in the likes of Gardevoir and Dragapult, which are obviously very, very popular right now in Japan. So we could see some sort of synergy in sort of the End Zoroark sort of box as one of their sort of tools in their arsenal. Now we did see a new Lily's card, which is the Ribumbi, and it had a really interesting ability. Once you're a turn, when you play this card to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may look at your opponent's hand, choose any number of basic Pokemon you find and put them onto your bench. This is obviously terrifying. Meaning you could look at your opponent's hand and again and play some Pokemon which can be quite devastating. Ones that have obviously these on-play effects and instantly put them straight down onto the bench, and they don't actually activate this one. This could be very strong for control. Could be obviously good in Lily decks when they have their they want to use their Rondo attack with their Clefairy EX. So could see some sort of play in that sort of way. So I do really like this card. I think it's very strong in control, but obviously very powerful in Lily's deck as well to really power up and bench as many Pokemon as possible to really fuel their damage output. Rest of all, we do see this new Hops card, and we are still getting Hops card, and I really love Hops Sanaconda. So let's not forget the Hops will get these basically these 90 plus damage modifiers it has with the Choice Bell, as well as also the Snorlax and of course the Stadium card. So everything pretty much always add 90 damage to this one. So first attack with the Tremor, during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. This obviously is pretty powerful. Like I mentioned before, obviously it costs 1 energy less, so 1 fighting energy. You can do 120 damage on your second turn of the game, which is pretty strong, and blocking the opponent from retreating, that could be pretty strong when most decks only really rely on 1 or 2 switches and potentially even a Churro. But other attack for a fighting and colors, Ground Break does 140 damage and attack does 20 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. Yes, granted, you're doing 20 damage to yourself, but like I mentioned before, potentially turn 2, you could be doing 230 damage for 2 energies. Very, very powerful on a single prize Pokemon, let's not forget. Now, if we go with that synergy, Hops, like Silicobra, actually has attack does 20 damage for effectively 1 energy, so that could be 110 damage. Effectively could be done as early as your first turn going second, so let's not forget about that. This could be another way to play the Hop style deck. Morantis has a very interesting ability. If its Pokemon is knocked in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from any of your opponent's Pokemon, put 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This obviously is very powerful. Obviously it's only from attack, so it can't really trigger from the likes of Dusknoir, but generally quite interesting. This is 3 sort of 6 damage counters. You could put the likes of the Vengeful Punch on this one, and even more sort of damage counters as well could add to this one. And the attack does 20 damage, and the opponent's Pokemon next turn can't retreat. It's fine, but really interesting ability. Noivern has a great ability, which is very much a return of the likes of the Yamaga Prime back in the day of the Heart Gold Soul Silver. If you and your opponent have exactly the same number of cards, ignore the energy cost for this Pokemon's Panic Howl attack, and the Panic Howl does 110 damage, and the opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Now, not as powerful as people really expected it to be, but generally having a free energy for a free retreat and effectively do 110 on a single prize Pokemon, there could be some synergy of this one. You can either team up with the likes of a Dustin War, put some damage counters on this way. You can fuel up the attack to even more. Single price Pokemon, no energies. Generally, these no energies decks have seen some success. Think about likes of his Gramble, but obviously that's has a different style effect. So I generally think this could see some success in the future, whether it be a final rogue archetype or someone will generally try and see this work. And we also see his Butterfree as well, which has for one grass energy, 60 damage, and flip 4 coins. It has 60 times amount of heads. Maxing out on likes of 240 damage isn't too bad for a stage 2 Pokemon, but if 2 or more of these are heads, the opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Definitely, that's the only reason why I wanted to mention this one. Having that auto paralyze on the grass, you already have some decent grass support for likes of Rabska, as well as also potentially the likes of Toadscroll as well. So this could see some sort of success overall. Overall, I would say this set is pretty powerful. I wish there was more sort of owners Pokemon, but we do see some other cards as well, which hopefully will have this impact as well, which I really am excited about talking about post rotation in just a few days' time. Obviously, it happens over there, and then we'll talking about it next week when looking ahead. But let's not talk about dwell on post rotation. We obviously had a brand new set released for us in Prismatic Evolution, so let's actually break that down right now. So let's look at the City League results in the last ever full weekend of Prismatic Evolution in Japan. We can see here that the format has definitely evolved slightly. We've actually seen the return of Reid Drago on the graph. It's been a very long time since we've seen Reid Drago, being about 2.8%. Granted, still not as strong as we've seen it really show right now in our sort of format, where I would say Reid Drago is definitely the BDIF. I mean, it was 13% on day 1 in Birmingham this past weekend. So I really would say it's much stronger in our format right now. I would definitely say Japan is more favouring on the newer sort of shiny archetypes, likes of Gardevoir and Dragapult, because they got some new sort of toys. Obviously, these decks are doing very powerful. I would say Dragapult is definitely looking at the results, won more City Leagues than likes of Gardevoir, but Gardevoir is definitely having a much more stronger case. It's actually top cutting a lot more events than the likes of Dragapult, as we've seen with Gardevoir being 17% and Dragapult being 14.1. The numbers are still a little bit dwindling, but I generally think Dragapult is going to be one of the strongest archetypes. As I talked about on my best sort of decks to play in the Prismatic Evolution format, it's a really coin toss up between Gardevoir and Dragapult. I think Dragapult is the best user of the likes of Badoo, could really slow down the opponent, and I think the likes of Lance is really, really powerful. I generally think like Dragapult is in such a great place in the metagame. One of the only scary things about Dragapult is a really poor matchup, I believe, for the likes of Arduradon. And I've definitely noticed more of the Arduradon decks go more towards likes of the Dialgas. Yes, no, Dialga is quite cost effectively. Like if you want to actually get the Star Cronus out, obviously it needs 5 energies, and that's basically 2 Duraludons plus an attachment, and that requires you to actually either have Dialga in the active spot or find another sort of way to actually retreat the active Pokemon. So there are definitely some sort of scary sort of things about Duraludon, but having 300 HP on a stage 1 Pokemon and hitting for 220 is very, very powerful. The likes of Dialga as well to prize manipulate, gain potentially an additional turn and potentially additional 2 more extra prizes on that turn. It's absolutely devastating. Ceresh as well is also a deck which is doing incredibly well right now in Japan. We have some really unique creative choices of what Ceresh is actually doing, which I'm also really happy to discuss. Also, well, for the likes of Gardevoir, could potentially some ace specs. Obviously, we know for Gardevoir, the best ace specs are the likes of his Unfirst Slam. Occasionally, we've seen likes of Secret Box be a much more aggressive one, but what about the likes of Brilliant Blender? Could that generally be a good ace spec? And Ceresh, could we have another strong attacking option in this one and not really rely on the likes of having the Palkia Radiant Greninja option. Now, if we look at the rest of this deck here, we've seen likes of Goldingo, Lost Box, Charizard, Miraidon, kind of like fill out the rest of the tournament, as well as also Ancient Box. Lugia being about 9%, similar percentage-wise to Suraj, is again no surprise. Lugia has the great sort of new tools to play with, likes of the Regigigas, which works incredibly well in a format, which obviously we have, likes of Suraj, and of course, likes of Dragapult as well. Could pretty much instantly one-hit KO this one if you have 4 pretty much like non-double turbo energies attached to your Regigigas to get a huge one-hit KO. I generally think if you look at this sort of format right now, we can see here it's nearly set in stone a little bit. We have seen some chopping and changing over hill. The likes of Gardevoir and Dragapult kind of snapping around which is the top archetype, which is the sort of the second best archetype to play right now. But generally there are some sort of fun creative choices, which I really want to talk about right now, about some of these winning archetypes from this past weekend. So the first one I look at is this Gardevoir list here. And if you look at this one, this kind of looks exactly the same. But I did mention it does play Brilliant Blender as its ace spec. Now, I think this is a really unique sort of style of choice. One of the reasons I think this works really well is in a format with a very heavy in Badoo. They might not be able to get these energies in Discard Pile as quickly as possible, or generally it could be really, really strong to kind of get this on your first turn if you have an easy way to get out your Gardevoir from the likes of the Team Evolution. By instantly playing a Brilliant Blender, you could get 5 energies in your discard pile, or potentially get Pokemon you get back from with the likes of these Night Stretcher, which works very, very well in the start of deck. This could be really good, especially in the aggressive style play at the start, by aggressively discarding your energies, or potentially Pokemon and bringing them back from the likes of Night Stretcher, or potentially in the late game as well, by filling out some of these useless cards you may not really require. I generally don't think this is as strong as I once thought. If you could this deck plays like some rare candy, granted obviously we're in a format very heavy on Badu, I generally think this could be a very good strong pick. It's instantly evolving straight into your Gardevoir, chucking a Brilliant Blender, also on your Screamtail and Drifloon could have over 300 damage right there available to this one. Generally I think that's probably the better style way to go with the likes of Brilliant Blender, but we have seen this creative choice really to get rewarded. Could I see this be incremented in our format? Not particularly, but I really love this decision making for Gardevoir, and I think it's a really good aggressive style play. Another one is just straight up Dialga. We've used to seeing the likes of Dialga teamed up with Artdralodon. And obviously it's great because Artdralodon has 300 HP to stage 1, they can energy accelerate, and it's very powerful, but returning to the likes of Metang and having likes of Badu, it's obviously very great. You could have the more aggressive styles of synergy and potentially get out your Star Chronos out its earliest second turn and not rely on potentially some evolutions and have energy in the discard pile. Just hope to have good sort of draw factor with your likes of Metang, especially that can be done very well with your Fitting Sword cards like Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, so it's also press research to dig through your deck as quickly as possible. Generally a very interesting style deck, and I really love how this Dialga deck has really been rewarded and potentially could be great against Badu, really slowing down the opponent and hopefully entering a great sort of late or mid game what Dialga really offers. Another one is Ceruledge. I mentioned before, Ceruledge is normally partnered with the likes of a Palkia with the likes of these Munkidori to move some energies around there, as well as also Radiant Greninja to like draw through some extra cards. And then Palkia potentially is a great secondary attacking option, as well as also Greninja as well. But this deck has kind of completely gone away from this one and playing the likes of Iron Hands. And this, I think, is a really interesting way. One of the reasons why people play likes of Greninja is a single prize Pokemon, which could get 2 prizes by KOing the likes of these Dreepies on Dragapult, as well as also these Roltzers and Gardevoir. Many decks aren't really playing Manaphy as often right now. They are on a scale of a Trifrost, and Greninja is still very powerful, but only really strong right now. In the likes of Surge and like the days of Chien-Pao, it's about a 10% archetype, which I definitely do miss. So kind of like this Iron Hands really takes advantage of this one. If you're in a format which mainly relies on this Manaphy, kind of like going back to playing this Iron Hands. You obviously play the likes of Electro Generator. You could have the Night Mezagota. Sorry, Night Academy, so you actually potentially stack one of the lightning energies. You pay a lot more of these lightning energies. You're obviously very much turbo style, aggressive style deck. So I generally could see this sort of synergy. It's a great sort of attacking option. Granted, it is like everything gets KO'd. Well, that's 4 energies. That's an additional 80 more damage you can do when a Pokemon gets KO'd. Unlike the likes of when a Ceruledge dies, you're only really discarding 1 energy. So it does work and fuel in Ceruledge's sort of late sort of game. I think this is a very interesting take. I generally, again, do not think this is the best way to play Ceruledge right now. I think it's still strong with the Palkia build and Greninja, because I think Palkia is a great attacking option. Obviously, Greninja, you're a single prize Pokemon taking 2 prizes, unlike the likes of your Iron Hands, which is a 2 prize Pokemon taking 2 prizes. So that's the only really issue of the style deck, but I really love and applaud this creative choice. Another one is Palkia. I know we're kind of seeing like Palkia kind of like seeing some success overall, but I really like seeing this version of the list. I love this is one of my favorite decks to play. I love this in Palkia build. I also love the Palkia Dusknoir. But this one here is playing like some Munkidori, potentially moving 3 damage counters around from your Palkia and deal additional more damage. And effectively, this can make your Palkia get these huge one-hit KOs. That plus the likes of Kieran is amazing. Also, I love having a Crispin in this deck because you're energy accelerating not only to your Palkia, but you can also get your Darkness energy and put it to hand, or potentially attach another water energy as well. Another way to bring out a Palkia as soon as possible, or even power up likes of a Greninja. You have seen these fun creative choices. I love this sort of version of Palkia. We've seen the likes of the Illumise and Volbeat kind of see some sort of relative success as a good sort of partner of Palkia, but this one here, I am a huge fan of this one. Having the Munkidori works really well because it opens the likes of Crispin. You also have the likes of which can obviously energy accelerate to your Trapagos, but also you can have the Glass Trumpet as well. Another great way to energy accelerate to these Pokemon to get these huge one-hit KOs. And of course, I love the likes of Energy Switch as well, moving around your energies around there, because obviously these are only 2 energy costs Pokemon, so I generally love this one. And I think this is a good creative choice. Obviously, it's sad to see that we are going to see Palkia rotate and likes of Irida to my favorite cast to play right now in this format, but I really like to see we are seeing it have some sort of last-minute hurrah over in Japan. We also see Lost Zone box, and I really love how Lost Zone is actually kind of like coming back and having a little bit of resurgence. We saw it kind of have some sort of success over there on the stream this past weekend in Birmingham, as well as also kind of like seeing it pop up a lot more here and there. What I love about Lost Zone is that it's always getting these great sort of attacking option. And again, like I mentioned, like with Palkia, this obviously is rotating in just a few days' time in Japan. We can see here that it does play some of the new sort of toys that really in its new arsenal. Having that new Regigigas, getting this huge instant one-hit kills, and obviously it can be powered up very easily for likes of Lost Vacuum, Mirage Gate for Regigigas, and instantly power up as quickly as possible and get these huge one-hit KOs on the likes of these Dragapult and Ceralages, really dominating the metagame. I really like Terapagos as well as another attacking option, because also you can use its second attack as well. Because we already play sort of the energy requirement as well. I think Pikachu is still the greatest attacker in Lost Zone right now, 300 damage for 3 energies, one of the best attacks right now in the game. You discard all your 3 energies, yes, but you already play a ton of sort of recovery cards like Super Rod, stuff like that. It's obviously very, very strong. I also love the Combustion Punch, another way to just attach to your Cramorant and get the huge one-hit KOs in the late sort of game. But yeah, I really love this creative Lost Zone deck. Having that Regigigas works is great for another sort of attacking option. It could potentially be good to KO a single prize Pokemon, but also great to KO the likes of these and Dragapults in the later style game. Also, Wols. I really like Wols right now. Now, it didn't really gain any new cards in the style set, but I think Wols is in a great spot. And we can see here that it works very well. If we're in a format which is really dominated by Terra Pokemon, if we look at Ceralege being nearly 10% and the likes of Dragapult being about 15%, add that together, that's nearly 25% of the metagame is really dominated by these Terra Pokemon, so my life pick really slows that down. Lots of these Pokemon really rely on the Roblox Pokemon with abilities. That's where the likes of these Iron Hands can really slow you down. Noivern can slow you down from these Raging Bolts, if they actually kind of go around there in Japan, really slowing down the opponent's sort of style deck. And I love Ogerpon as well, and Mimikyu just a straight up wall. I think Wols is in a great position right now in this sort of format. I think it could be definitely something to be keeping on your radar, especially if you're testing the Prismatic Evolution format. It could be really, really disruptive in the format. If we are expecting Dragapult to be potentially a 50% archetype in EUIC and other sort of future events coming forward, potentially even higher up, this is definitely a good sort of deck to have in your arsenal, really to learn and really test against this one, as this could be the one to beat as well, not just relying on likes of Block Lax or Pidgeot control, which we're kind of really used to. And finally, I want to kind of like look at this fun creative choice for Reid Drago. This deck is definitely kind of like fade away from the background in the style format. I would say definitely in Japan, people feel like Badu is an absolute killer of a deck, but this one here is actually playing like a Badu. Right, fight fire with fire instead of having the Cleffa. But I really love it does also play this Entei and the likes of the Area Zero Underdepths. With having Entei, it's a great other attacking option. You have NG Switch already, you have a lots of way to NG Accelerate, so you can just power up an Entei. It's a great sort of attacking option in the first turn. You can fill up your bench as big as possible with having likes of Ogerpon and Latias, so you have like the free retreat options. There's also some good NG Acceleration. So I generally really like the style of choice for Reid Drago. I've noticed a lot more in Japan. They are favouring the likes of these Area Zero Underdepths, potentially having having an Entei as another sort of additional attacker. Could this generally be the best way for Reid Drago? Have that very aggressive sort of turn one play with an Entei, get a huge one-hit KO. You can use likes of Prime Catcher and then constantly reuse your Prime Catcher in the late start game with Reid Drago. We're seeing here they play a 2-3 line of Reid Drago. Not something we're really common to see. We're used to seeing a 3-3 line. So that's where the likes of Entei is a great sort of attacking option. Can attack huge early aggressive play and pressure, really slowing down the opponent as much as possible. Gain the KOs on those cheeky Rotons or Luminions or Squawkabillies, which people really rely on their first sort of turn to help with their setup. So generally something which is really unique and interesting and a great creative choice, which I actually think really did get rewarded and we'll see constant play, hopefully, moving forward in our Prismatic Evolution format. So, without further ado, let's wrap it up looking ahead. Is this actually a good format? We've discussed Prismatic Evolutions for about a month and a half right now on this channel, and I've really enjoyed this one. Definitely we weren't the gloom and gloom as how scared we really were for Badu, being nearly 50% of archetypes, and now it's about in 35 to 20% of decks. So it's definitely shrunk a lot more. It's not as utilized as we really kind of thought it was, but I generally think this actually Badu has helped the metagame as much as possible. It's really prepared us in how terrified we could be from item lock as early as your first turn going second. And generally, are you ready for post rotation? I know we don't get rotation until about April time, but on the channel, we're going to be starting discussing it from as early as Monday. Obviously, that happens over in Japan, and I'm so excited to really kind of deep dive and discuss post rotation. And hopefully, you guys are as well, because I think it's in an absolutely great spot right now, and I'm so excited to see exactly the impact of owner's Pokemon. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'm going back in just a few days' time to talk about expanded events that have happened over in Japan the past few weeks, and we've got a breakdown to see exactly what is the state of expanded right now, and I hope you guys enjoy that video. I'm going back in a few days' time for that, as well as also next week talking all things post-rotation. So, without further ado, I will see you guys later. Bye for now.